Hello everyone and welcome to yet another live coding and chill. I'm your host Johnny, delighted to be here. Today we'll be building a brand new app and starting with the deployment. We'll deploy somewhere new. We've done many live streams where we always deploy, we always build real apps and deploy them to production, but almost always we've done Vercel so far, the automatic GitHub integration with Vercel. Vercel, you can find your GitHub repo and it automatically creates environments, deploy previews, the production deployments, all sorts of cool things. But now we're even gonna do cooler things with Fly.io, or equally cool with extra DevOps nerd cred, I would say, because Vercel, you pay for that convenience in some other ways we'll discuss. With Fly.io, you do have some flexibility, but you do need more knowledge, I would say, to get the same sort of quality deployments out, like CI/CD, that sort of thing. The thing we'll be building today, and probably in the next few streams, if you like this concept, or you don't want me to switch to something else, would be a trivia app. I'm imagining this as a sort of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire crossover with Wordle, and the big difference would be that not necessarily will have a chat interface, because everything has a chat interface now, but not everything should have a chat interface. The big thing would be that the answers are going to be free form. So unlike Who Wants to Be a Millionaire and game shows like that, where you have 2 options or 4 options or 8 options or whatever, and you select one of them, you need to type out what the answer is. And then we'll try to do some algorithmic magic on the backend to figure out if your answer should actually be valid or not. We'll likely be using chat-gpt at some point, but today is all about getting this demo site live. It already has account support, so you can log in with various social providers and OAuth. It has all sorts of goodies that we've created together in live streams in the past. You can use something like this as proof of value that people actually want to log in and play something like this, even if there is no real functionality. For the answer to do. We may build this today. I don't know how far we'll get. The big thing is deployments with Fly. And what I've done so far, I've reskinned, I've gone through a bit of setup with the app I created right before my vacation, the SvelteKit app, which at the moment you can click around and find out. Here you'll see that it's very similar. I've just changed a few things to get us going, but this one deploys to Vercel. We'll discuss when you may want to use that versus Fly, which we're going to use today in just a moment. Let's see if this still works. We've built this right before my vacation all across Eurasia, almost the other side of the world, and I've arrived only yesterday, so I thought of the jet lag. Hopefully we'll see how it goes. This thing is supposed to respond like the popular Baldur's Gate 3 character Astarion. So let's ask, what do you think of Cara? Does this still work? Ah, there you go. Great. Ah, Cara, my dear, she's quite the fiery one, isn't she? Both literally and figuratively. A bit rough around the edges, but there's a certain charm to her brutishness. Just don't expect her to appreciate the finer things in life, like a good vintage or a well-placed dagger in the dark. But I suppose even a brute has their uses. Is this still accurate? Probably not. But it is proving that we did get to play with chat-gpt in that previous live stream. Today will prove that we still got it after my vacation. Let me know in the chat what you're working on, what you'd like to see, if you're excited for this stream. Always nice to hear that I'm showing things that people find valuable. A lot of the things that we saw are requested in the comments, in the chat, in the Discord community. Jump in there. And in fact, it has been requested to use something other than Vercel. So something like Fly for deployments, or Ender, or Cloudflare Workers, those solutions. Why did I do Fly today? It's always been in the plan for quite a few of the apps that we've created, but it feels like during my long layovers trips, I've been checking social media more, and there was quite a bit of discussion about Vercel. Is it costly? Is it not maintainable, sustainable for scale? That sort of thing. So it made me think, let's discuss in a live stream episode and so an alternative as well. As always, no affiliations whatsoever. I saw solutions that I believe in, that I think are cool, modern, and effective. As always, it depends with like 99% of the things what you may want to choose, but I've been showing Vercel because I think it's a great choice. I still consult and advocate for Vercel for some solutions, but I also advocate for AWS straight on solutions like Fly.io. It really depends on many factors that we'll discuss. So timestamp here. 6 minutes preamble already. We've gone through the app, I would say. Let me know if you think the app is going to be cool. I like pump trivia and trivia apps as well. I hate when I'm limited to like just a few answers. And it seems this is a prime case for generative questions and answers for the LLMs that we have today. Because if you have an answer in your database, and in your database you also have the questions, you have like a quiz, has 10 questions or 15 stops or tiers or whatever we're going to do today, and each question has an answer, and then you capture the user's input and you run that through an LLM, like should this answer be accepted? I think that's a great use case for LLM. No human would be able to create all the variations, all the permutations of how people answer questions. So it would open up to some fun answers, especially if we do riddles and stuff. There are some riddles where some answers should be accepted and you wouldn't be able to account for all of them. And so long as we're not asking for anything too current, then I foresee that LLM may be a great tool for the gameshow app that we want to create. Anyway, I did manage to ramble even more before actually getting to the point. So I was checking threads of all things, but maybe this originated in Twitter as most things in threads do. And I found an interesting one about Cara. If you haven't heard of this one, it's like an Instagram alternative, but it's like the old Instagram when it was about the creators and not about shorts, reels like TikTok, that sort of thing. And famously, it doesn't have ads. Great, I hate ads. If I could turn the ads off in my channel, I would, but I literally cannot. YouTube doesn't allow me. It's a bit of a sore subject. I never do like advertisements, like brand deals, like I hate that sort of thing. Check out any links if you find an ad for anything other, I guess, than JOHNNIFY Premium, which is my own thing. Let me know and I will take it down. So I appreciate this. I appreciate the Cara app that's been going around. It's not the debate of today whether artists are finding it useful, not. Is it a nice blogfolio website? The point is they've tried to create like an old Instagram clone, like a Twitter with images type of thing without ads. Great, but there was some drama in that the founder got a bill by Vercel that was, I can only assume, hefty, almost 100K for the month. And for some people, that's a lot. For me, it's a lot for sure. Would it be a lot if I had an app with 100K users? Maybe not. Depends on whether I have a membership service in it. Depends on whether I have ads, which I never would. So quite half a million users actually. Lerob Robertson from Vercel, what a legend. He did engage with this problem, with this situation quite well, was quite knowledgeable in the response and what may have happened. But as always, it's socials, so there were quite a few crazy takes that I'd like to discuss today, like hot takes, like invalid fake news takes, that sort of thing. So you see this 100K per month because I deployed to Vercel is the takeaway of for some, and we should discuss this. I do think this is, first let me say that I have no idea how big Signa's team is. I don't know how much they're paying that team. I don't know any of that, no insider background knowledge, but I have built apps and I have worked in apps that serve millions and millions. So I would say that this is a skill issue in some parts, and it feels like they created an Next.js app to do some of the grunt work. I imagine that's the thing that we see here, but also they're using the Next.js API for the mobile app. And every time the mobile app wants to authenticate, update, upload, like do whatever, it also creates a serverless edge request or whatever it's doing there for the Vercel deployment. And that racked up quite a bill. There are many ways to make this more efficient. It's not that the moment you deploy to Vercel and you reach 500,000 users or 1,000 users, or the moment you scale with Vercel, they start charging you 100K. So for some people, that was the takeaway, and it definitely should not have been. There are ways to mitigate this. However, on the other side, Vercel is quite generous with the free tier limits for the hobby projects and that sort of thing. I have had tons of hobby projects just running on the free tier, but they have to make their money somehow. And one of the ways they do make money is when a company is successful and is deciding to switch to Vercel, use Vercel, then they do take heftier fees than if you were just to do your own stack and your own deployment solution and use something like AWS directly. However, just using AWS is easier said than done. And many people say that, for example, in the quest to save 96K per month, it's easy to spend 100K per month on developer salaries. For example, how big will your DevOps team be that replicates the functionality that Vercel gives you? Maybe 200K, maybe 500,000, maybe 1 million. Maybe you'd be paying those guys quite a lot. Or maybe you wouldn't be paying them at all. You wouldn't have anyone else. It'd only be you deploying to AWS, and then your bill maybe would be much, much smaller. But there is the opportunity cost of how much time did you spend trying to set up all of those things that Vercel wraps around and makes it a bit easier to set up. So it really depends. The thing that I really want to get across here is not that I deploy to Vercel and therefore at some point I'm going to be paying hundreds and hundreds of thousands to maintain the app that I have. But there are optimization opportunities if you know what you're doing with other services. So today we will be showing Fly.io. Now, another thing that has been on the social discourse as well is, should we be doing serverless this hard? Or maybe the good old always on servers was the way to go in the past. And I would go to various things that Glauber from Turso has posted in the past. Glauber's got great opinions on the subject, always cites his sources and that sort of thing. And again, it's a big subject of it depends. It's not that inherently the edge is bad or the edge is a lie or Vercel is moving away from the edge and we should have had persistent machines always on forever. It really depends. Cloudflare Workers is another thing that we may show in the future. If you'd like, as another serverless solution, today we'll be showing Fly because it is an instance where you can have machines that spin up as needed and then go to sleep, which is the prime use case of serverless. Usually you have one method that maybe you run a few times per hour, a few times per day, and then you don't want to pay for it all day as you would if it was in a dedicated persistent server all day. But with Fly.io, you can do that. But you can also have a machine that's running all day that would be cheaper than waking up and rerunning the function execution, the serverless function all the time. So again, maybe more options with Fly, definitely more pricing efficient options if you're going to do the thing that Cara seems to have been doing in this case to rack up this bill. As always, casting is your friend and enemy for those things. It's always your friend for saving money, but your enemy if you want to do cast invalidation. that could be a huge way to save on function executions and how big you want your machine to be, all of those things. But we are not going to do a dollar analysis and stack analysis here. I just wanted to get on top of this a little bit. The other thing, the other take I saw is that this proves that you cannot have an app without ads, which is drastic. For sure, just because this app did rack up this bill doesn't mean that every app will be racking up this bill. As we've discussed, there are ways to make this bill smaller, and there are ways to make money that are much better than abusing people's eyeballs with ads you don't want. Such as asking for JOHNNIFY Premium. Hello, Giuseppe. It's going very well. It's been already rambling for 16 minutes, but I am going to get to coding soon before jet lag catches up to me. Anything else I would like to say here? Like, again, I don't know the background of this. I do know that if I were ignoring emails from the HMRC, for example, or paying like 100K, then I'd be in more trouble than having HMRC reach out and be like, oh, maybe we can work out a deal and forgive some of that debt. So I wish I were in that position. But yeah, no further behind the scenes knowledge here. Anything else to discuss in this manner? Probably not. Again, Vercel will remain a thing I will present as a solution in many projects, in many consultancies, as well as deploying directly to AWS, deploying to other serverless services like Cloudflare Workers, or things like Fly.io and Render. And today we're going to do Fly. We'll start by trying to follow their guide on how to deploy SvelteKit to Fly.io, and I predict we'll run into some edge cases and issues that will need to diverge from the guide or enhance the guide, I should say. All right, so goal for today, get this thing live. If we have time, we may work on the functionality of the app later, but probably we'll pick that up Tuesday, and I will be adding timestamps later. So if you want to go straight to the actual coding and deployment, then you can skip all of this background banter. So Giuseppe, how are you doing? And Son, how are you doing as well? Quick drive-by hello from Sean. Is it another park walk? Quick stream look, chat and hi. I appreciate every hi and every comment, but those are even more fun. I did hike quite a lot in South Korea during my vacation, but before I ramble on something completely different, let's move on. So yeah, this app, I think it's Next.js. Does it have like the classic, some classic IDs here? ID __ next, you may be able to see here. So yeah, Next.js, clearly. Does Next.js blow up your bill? No, but it can. Anything can blow up your bill. AWS can blow up your bill, even if it's by necessity cheaper than Next.js and Vercel, which wraps around AWS. That's why, I guess that's my golden advice to everyone. Always set up limits for the services that you sign up. That wasn't the case with Cara app, because they wanted it to keep serving users and keep racking up the bill, because they want to grow, and then see how they can make this project sustainable. Any sort of social app lives and dies by the user base. Are people in? Are there enough people in? Do there is critical mass? So I get that. I respect the approach. If you were just blowing up and then because you didn't have the willingness to pay the bill, the app would go down, then it may kill your project. You'll need to refactor and do more PR and other marketing lands, trying to recreate catching lightning in a bottle, which wasn't the case here. It was an educated decision to just let the bill rack up, keep the app growing, keep the community growing, and then we'll figure it out. I respect it, valid solution. Will you be able to refactor into a better thing here? If Lerob is helping, then definitely. And someone says, yeah, exactly. We're talking about the Cara app build. Lots of takes there. Hopefully I've captured most of it here. Some of the takes absolute trash, some of the takes sensible. Biggest takeaway, always set up a limit for your app until you figure out how much it would cost if it actually like gets trending on Reddit or TikTok or wherever else. Like then it's a conscious decision of whether you actually will want to pay $100K at some point. But set like a $20, $100, whatever your budget is, limit. So if something goes wrong unexpectedly, you don't end up costing millions. This has happened even in companies where we've been deploying to Google Cloud, for example, AWS. It can happen. Even a junior engineer can do like a hack day project and have a machine learning script rack up a bill. So always set up limits. I think that's the biggest takeaway here. Not that Vercel is inherently more expensive. Right, so set your limits. I always set limits for the apps that we make live for exactly that reason, because you never know. I say, and then you find me on Twitter next month, be like, oh my God, I created this app on a live stream and then I racked up 2 million and now I'm in debt and I need to flee to South Korea again. Right, jokes aside, I think we can move on to Sean says, there's one thing that baffles me with Vercel and SvelteKit is how Vercel struggles with resolving the SvelteKit assets path alias, and it's always an intermittent error, so hard to trace. I think, are you talking about the Apple Touch icon pre-composed thing? That may be a slightly different thing there, because on any app that we're deploying, the metadata and all of that should be there correctly. So yeah, this should be the assets prefix that gets correctly templated in, interjected in here, at least for me, and this is deployed to Vercel. So we may need to get in touch about this. The logs will often say that cannot find the Apple Touch icon, which is a different type of side story and rabbit hole that I should not get into now. Now we should go to deploying to Fly.io and see what happens. All right, so they've got a guide, not the latest guide in the world, but it's still using new SvelteKit, fresh SvelteKit, great. And they are creating the SvelteKit app, the demo app, using the SvelteKit wizard. You could do this. The thing I've done, as discussed, is used JOHNNIFY Premium and start this app based on the chat repo that we made on the previous live stream. So it has things like the social login, the SAT-CN components, Tailwind, dark mode, like all of those things that the SvelteKit wizard doesn't have. Prettier, tests, playwright, automations, migrations, drizzle, lots of keywords we can drop in here, but it doesn't really matter. Somehow you do have a SvelteKit app, just that if you want to follow this guide, they say just use the SvelteKit wizard and get done with it. But you can even migrate an app that you already have and even deploy to Vercel already here. So the thing to note is that we need to change the adapter. In the end, InFly will be running a node server, so we need to use the adapter node to build our app instead of the Vercel adapter that we may have here. I don't think I've changed this. So let's go to our Svelte config and indeed have the Vercel adapter, but we want the node adapter, which also means that we want to add it as a dependency. And we can even remove the Vercel adapter because we're not deploying to Vercel here. Restart this. Also, when you're using the node adapter, no runtime heads. In this case, no option that we'll need to use at this point. So this is the Svelte config.js file. I think the wizard gives you the adapter node by default, but most of my projects, as discussed, we deploy to Vercel. That's why I had the node adapter and was deploying things on the ends. So that's the thing to change. Great. It's saying here to start by building, which is interesting. So it wants us to run a start command, which is fair enough. And they want the start command to run node on the build directory. So this looks like build, but it's not actually building, it's running the output of the result of this script. And then they want us to actually run the build command, see what happens there. Hopefully it just works. Looks like it does. It's also saying run the preview server to see what's happening here. It will run it on localhost. And indeed, it seems like everything works all good so far. All right, now it's time to do the fly stuff. You need the fly control CLI app, which you can install visiting these links. I have it installed already using Homebrew. And it claims that if we just do fly once, if we are logged in already, that part I'm not sure about. Oh, there you go, the Apple Touch icon pre-composed problem. So some browsers will look for this even though it doesn't exist. So if this is there you're worrying about, just create an Apple Touch icon pre-composed PNG. And one way to create it is maybe copy pasting the one you have. And then you'll be sorted. Right, so fly needs a few setup instructions in a fly toml to work, but supposedly when you run it for the first time, it should create things for us. So let's see. What everyone else been up to the past couple of weeks, if I switch over to the big view, is that my tree in the background has blossomed so beautifully, like the sakura colors. They are violet colors, beautiful rose colors in the background in the meantime. So it was thriving. I hope you were thriving as well, maybe catching up to live streams. But joking aside, the fly CLI managed to understand that we're deploying a SvelteKit app. Great. And it's going to attempt to deploy it to fly. According to how I logged in, it identifies who I am. It's going to take this from the directory name. It's going to deploy it to Madrid, Spain, because it detects that I'm in Barcelona and that's the nearest server they've got. They have a cheap machine for us. We don't want a Postgres database. We don't want Redis. We don't want Tigris, which I admit, I don't know what this is. But it feels like we don't need to tweak these settings. Let's just make sure to read this. It says all good, so we don't need to tweak. Indeed. It's adding some Docker dependencies. It's building a Docker image. Do I have Docker running? Is a question. Let's see if this will fail terribly. Guess the answer is no. Because it's running, Docker is running in the cloud, I guess. Right, on the build output, you can see that we had a few TypeScript problems on building because we didn't have some secret variables, which is the thing that we'll talk about later. So this couldn't build. Unlike their demo project here, which has no environment variables, any real app will have environment variables, and that is blocking the app from building. But let's see what we got. So, created a Docker ignore. I don't know why it has a .vercel folder here. Anyway. I wonder if this is true for every SvelteKit project or if it adds some things according to what I've set up in the project itself, my dependencies. Not sure. It created a Docker file. Have a look at that Docker file. It specifies that they want to run a SvelteKit app. It sets the node-env to production. And then it builds the app from in this stage, copies the output directory really in the end, and then runs the index script here. So remember the step where it told us to create the node start thing? Lies. Didn't do anything here. Because it will manually run node on the index.js output, build output. Kind of interesting. We have a flight toml here. The app name, the region, the port to use, HTTPS, start and stop the machines. If you want this to always be running, I guess we didn't mention that Edge runtime, for example, has very fast cold starts. But if you know that you're going to have an app that's like a social app, like Cara, like Instagram, that's going to have users all around the world, and you're going to have 500,000 users, it's safe to assume that they'll be browsing the app throughout the day. So I don't think you'll be gaining anything by getting it to sleep. Which would be the case, like never sleep, always be ready. So even though the Edge runtime has faster cold starts, why do cold starts when you can just start? Like either hit the gas or have something always running to resolve. It's going to be starting the app process, which I guess in the Docker file we specify what app means, and this is the machine. It was a park walk from Son. Let's see if deploying will be a walk in the park. Our only problem so far is environment variables. They don't know what's up here. So they've also added something to our package.json. Check that out. They've added this Docker file thingy that I guess reads the Docker file. Who knows what this does? We've changed the adapter to the node adapter. And that's about it for changes in this file. Svelte config, we've changed that one. If we've added this to silence some inconvenient log outputs. All right, so that's what the Fly auto tool will create for us. And at this stage in real life, if you were following like the sample project that does nothing, but does have Wordle there, so that's fair enough, you would be able to just deploy this and move on with your life. However, we have the problem where we have environment variables, because really any app is going to have environment variables. If you want to connect to a database, then you'll need a secret password for you to be able to connect to the database on the backend. If you want to have something like social login flows, which we have here, you will need secret keys to be able to complete this journey. Therefore, you will need environment variables. Hello, Indra. How are you? In this project, along with all the instructions of how to use this as your starter, there is also committed a .env.test file that shows all the environment variables that we need, which is the database URL, and then the social login flow stuff, the Google Client ID and secret, same for GitHub and tweets. These are all the login options that we provide, and an OpenAI API key, which we will use in the future. We use it in this part of the app, where we'll be presenting some questions and asking chat-gpt to validate, is this answer correct or not? These may not be the secrets that you have, but very likely you'll have a database connection. Maybe it's Supabase, maybe it's something else, maybe it's not Turso, like it is here, but you will probably need a database. You will probably need an auth flow with some social providers. So you will have secrets in reality. How do you do this with Fly? Let's find out. So in real apps, you will need secrets, and here, Fly does have some reference logs on how you can build your app with secrets. Here, you can specify them inline in your Docker file. Which is just unusable because your Docker file will be seen by others. Like if it's a public GitHub repo, especially, you are committing this, so you cannot use as secret here. If it's private to your organization, maybe, but as is the case here, this is private to the organization, but I still don't want other people in the organization to have access to those specific secrets. I don't want you to be using my OpenAI key. You should be using your own. So I can never commit it to version control. And even in big companies as well, you don't want any junior to be able to come in here, see the Docker file, and then copy the API key and then run some cheeky chat-gpt 5 on the side. That's how you get into trouble. So never commit your secrets. Therefore, putting it like this, unusable. So, for secret values, you can have the deploy script, the deploy command, be given some build secrets there. And that's where this gets interpolated here. But again, where do you have this deploy command? Is every engineer supposed to add this and have like a reference in one password in your company's LastPass here? Not really workable. The solution I've used in the past with Fly is this, where you can actually create a different Fly machine that is gonna be compiling all the secrets that you've set in Fly. Fly has a command to use the CLI to set a secret on your account or your organization, and this script can run a build machine service, really, that you can use to build your app or while building your app to fetch all the secrets in the world in one string that gets then decrypted and evaluated, and it works. Not the most documented thing Fly has, but this section works. Even if you just copy paste it and use the Fly secret thing, it will work, but I'd say it's not ideal. So what I prefer is, since I'm using GitHub for version control anyway, is to use a GitHub action for this, and instead of the Docker building the app, so instead of Docker doing this step, Docker just gets the build artifact from the previous GitHub action or the previous GitHub step, and then runs the server from there. So it doesn't need to do any of this. It's going to be the GitHub action that does all of that, and then the Docker file will just say, all right, get in this directory and run the app. I think that's more workable because you're using GitHub for your version control anyway, and GitHub has I'd say better way to manage your secrets here. I've already added some public environment variables like the database URL. It doesn't matter if you know what that is, but the auth token is a secret environment variable. So that's what we'll try to do now. We'll try to create a GitHub action that builds the app first and then deploys to Fly. Or maybe we'll do this as a next step. We need to prove that this works. So let's say that this is the theory, and let's do another one now. So we've actually done the build command right before, and I'll run it again. That works. That results in this build directory being created, which, amongst other things, has everything the server needs to run the app. So instead of doing the preview deployment, we can try to do the npm start, I guess. Oh, interesting. We're not on Node, so that's a problem. That's why we cannot run it locally. But this thing should be able to run it. Docker should be able to run it. So let's see how we can amend the Docker file to just get to that step, really. So node.env is production. It brings in pnpm because that's what we're using here. We don't need the build step because we've done that. We will want to install the dependencies. Maybe just in case we have something that's sharp that has an executable that we'll need to use. I don't see any node modules needed here. So maybe we don't need them in this case. It's also copying the package.json for some reason. So we're claiming we don't have the build step here. We do have a build directory because we've run the command. Yeah, this step should have access to everything. If we link, I guess that's the thing. So if we link the build directory to here, then we don't need to prune or do anything like that. Do we need to install these dependencies again? Maybe not. We'll see. And I imagine this is the directory to copy from to. I guess we can keep it the same, even without the build step. Because it's copying everything. Prod false is interesting. There may be a CI true option. Would PNPM start just work? We have the build output, we have the node modules, just in case we want to do some clever commands with that we've defined back JSON, such as PNPM start. So let's see. We could also like just be running this. Let's start with this. Just run this. So now, if we fly lance again, if we fly deploy, let's see if the Docker thing will manage to do its job now. Just couldn't find the app build thing. Shouldn't this do it? Could have tried the script offline. Guess we could check out the project here, but probably not. But wait a minute. If we just don't have any of this, what happens? Was that the thing? Do nothing? That way I didn't have further notes. Pushing image to fly. It's saying it kinda worked. Let's see if the health check passes. Failed. Ah, cannot find this. Maybe this. Just get into that directory, move on with your life. Maybe you don't even need pm or anything like that. And I guess we could also specify here that the work directory is this or not specified at all, and then get into the build. All right, that was faster. Did it work? It passed the smoke test, so it must have had. Could be the problem that it didn't build for Node, interestingly enough. Because that was built for my local machine. Must be a way to check logs. this by default details them. Crossing. Unrelated. Will this be better? I wonder how it passed the smoke test. If this works, the problem is going to be that maybe the machine can be smaller if we get rid of the dependencies we only need for the build step. So that's going to be a future optimization. But first, let's see if we can make this work. It's my GitHub action. Not what we wanted. All right, let's go back to what they had. So what they had here was this. Let's make another section. Again, with the build secrets. Because this one I've definitely done before. But there must be an easier way to do this, surely. It's running the build step. The problem is it doesn't have access to the .env. It doesn't have access to the .env, it says. I still don't like using this idea. Yeah, because I'm never gonna run this command like this. Surely not. There is an extra session there of how to do it with GitHub. Is that the place where I've learned this? Yeah, it builds them like this. The GitHub action should be able to build this like we've done before, but my question is, how do we make this read the current directory? The Workdir app as well. This thing will need somewhere surely. This is why we'll have a separate episode of actually building the app, because deployment can't get crazy. Alright, so this step does nothing. Why can you not see the build directory? ChatGPT to the rescue. There must be a way. So, ChatGPT, Copilot, tell me. Here we go. Is this all we need? still fix this, like mid engineer. We have the build directory, right? Not trimming this. Yeah, it's here. But I cannot see this. Yeah, there is no build, but how do I make this available? Need to bail the stream, who knows? Ah, this may be it. So flight deploy, how do we tell it to use an existing directory? Unclear. Unclear. Because I want to be able to deploy the amp locally as well. That's why we're going through all of this. So we just move on to this. Maybe it works. Also, you can see how old the knowledge is because it's using checkout v2. Let's try it. But maybe not, because the problem is that what is fly deploy actually doing? Oh my god, there is a Docker ignore. Ugh. Ugh. Why? Oh my god, there is a Docker ignore. It's gonna make the image too big. Okay, so bad idea. But ignore the not modules. Don't ignore this. Can still ignore .env and stuff, sure. So yeah, just don't ignore the build output. Shouldn't be that bad. I couldn't find not modules. Not that bad. We may want this. Make the not modules available. In progress. What tier is this? Sure. Now it can find this, but it can't find this. Why? It managed to do this, which is good. Cancelled. I see. So this is not running for some reason. But why? season. I think so. I think that was a problem. Seems like finally this worked. All right, fair enough. So as a build output, it doesn't like it because we're running on Mac and this is like a not the server. So we do want this to build like this, but maybe we do want to copy the .env, .local and all of these things and have it built here actually. That makes sense. But then how do we pass the secrets from the GitHub action? We've managed to build this app, but we're not building for a Linux machine. Imagine this would be a Linux machine, and that's why this doesn't work now. So what was it doing all along here? I'll just copy everything with this. Let's see. All right, so build succeeded because we used the .env file, not using not having that line in the Docker ignore. So I'm highly confident this is going to work now, but I'm not sure this is what we actually want to happen. Lucia auth problems. So my confidence was half well served. This is the problem we're getting. Could not dynamically require something. Oh, are we using the Edge client? Maybe. Base should be fine. This one, see that one works. Kind of promising. It's not a lambda, famously. Oh, all right, we did it. Right. So finally, like 1,000,000 hours in. Seems like this worked, so you should be able to visit this site and get some progress here. Are we able to log in? Just to prove that we are working with a database. This address is invalid. Sure. Fair enough. So I guess it built using .env.local, which maybe we want to ignore. So yeah, let's ignore everything but production.env and try again. I have a different set of keys for the local app and the live app. And let's say that when we build, we want to build against the production app. Only read the .env. So again, I have a .env.test. This one is committed to version control, and you can see some test environment variables. You need to fill those in. You have a .env.local to be used for local development. Like I have different provider IDs and secrets for the login flow that expect localhost, and I have production ones here in .env that expect the deployed app, which, as I suspected, I think, is trivia-stray.fly-to-dev. I think I've set that one up correctly, but we'll see. So still up about terms pages, all of that. Can I log in? Looks like the answer is yes. All right, so it builds and deploys just fine when I do it locally. But now I want to automate this for GitHub, or with GitHub. Which we'll start doing, but then we'll come to the problem of how do we pass the environment variables with the Docker file. I'm still not happy enough to use the complicated solutions we've talked about before, but it may be our only option. Anyway, to keep things going, maybe let's commit this. Nothing sensitive here. I guess we can see if you can actually start this. I don't like it. Never use it. The big thing to watch out is that we needed to use the web client of libSQL. For some reason, it doesn't work on Node anymore. All right, so this happened. Let's move on with a GitHub action for automatic deployments. Let's see what they want us to do here. Just a small GitHub action, small, tiny GitHub action. Sure. Fly YAML, let's see. We do have a few workflows, including the one that migrates the database and runs the end-to-end integration and unit tests. Let's create a deploy YAML, paste everything, deploy fly main branch. Sure. Check out v4 should be correct. Failing. And my GitHub action integration is telling me that I don't have a fly API token. And also, when this tries to run the deployment, it won't have the environment variables that we need. So we'll need to work with that, figure that out. But first, let's try to get a fly API token. And we need to run it in the current directory. So I'll create a new one. This will be a powerful token, so if I accidentally saw it on screen, I'll need to delete it. But how do I set it? Is I go to GitHub. At the GitHub repository here, you can go to settings, you can go to secrets and variables. This will definitely be a secret. So the new repository secret, you can see here, it's going to be fly API token. And the value, it's going to be something I copy paste now. It's huge. And also includes a different string. Fly v1, include that in. Add the secret, save the secret. This works now, it's fine. All right, so now we have the token. Great. If we reload this, it should recheck and confirm that we have it, which is amazing. So the moment we push to the main branch, it should trigger the deployment. We should refresh what remote only does. It's a default. But I guess and they added for extra security. Who knows? Maybe they plan to change the default in the future, so they're like add remote only. So it's using a remote version of Docker, not the local one, which we were doing before, because it's the default. We could also be setting local only, and then it would run using the local Docker, which I didn't have running. Maybe a bit faster. Right, so how do I pass the environment variables here is the question. I guess we can add them like this. Maybe that's not too crazy anymore. Maybe. Do they have an example here? Ah, we can specify it many times. Great. So for every secret that we have, we could be specifying here. Let's see how it would look. Kind of like this, although because it's a multi-line script, do I have any multi-line scripts? Guess not. Is it just accept? Of course, we started like this. So it would be like this. The claims. Like this. So now this would be like the BURL, I guess, secrets. Better one. I think this would just be in the environment. Right, but and then you make that available. And you just do this like a million times for every provider. But that's not quite workable, I would say. So we'll do a little break, a little doggy break, and we'll be back to see, like, surely there is a better way to do this. Maybe like specifying the environment variables here with their multiple names. Not that bad. I would be willing to do this and save on these lines, but maybe it's not that bad actually. Anyway, we'll be right back. Some farming to get us going, and we'll be back. right, and we're back. Coffee has been refilled. Let's see how we do. Let's see, brick. Let's pass some environment variables to the GitHub action, and we'll do that by checking if Copilot has an idea. Because I think this may be it. Like we want db URL. We want the auth token, and then we want these sets. Which I guess in Vercel as well, you do need to paste in quite a lot of things, but their UI is quite cool, and you can just copy and paste or even drag and drop your actual .env and specify I want this for production, I want this for deployment, previews. It's easier, I would say. There must be a way to make it better, but I feel like I'll need to figure that out off screen. But hey, not that many. I guess this is also a decent use for AI. Paste this busy work for me. So that looks correct. All that remains is for me to paste in all my .env secrets, which will take a while. We'll see. Will that work? Who knows? We'll change this to prove that it works. Right, so again, I need to go into the repository, the syntax, in the settings, secrets and variables, and the actions, and add them here. I may want to fix them with prod or something, but that's just for humans, more readable for humans. And I need to pass this here. So people won't be able to see it. No, actually. Go to the agenda. You can still see the farm. That's something. It's potentially something. Right, I have my .env open. Time to add a million environment variables. Like Google Client ID. Which doesn't need to be a secret, to be honest. But when in doubt, just make it a secret. No, if no one needs to read it, then make it a secret as well. Like the DB URL, it's handy to be able to see at a glance what database we're talking to. But now, like the Google Client ID is like, you know, 713, whatever. Like, does anyone need to see that? Not really. It doesn't identify anything. It's not a problem if it gets leaked, but just visual clutter to see it. Ooh, and interestingly, secret names cannot start with GitHub, they say. So G8s for those it is. I've done this before. Now it's coming back to me. Again, there is some jet lag in play today. But we're getting there. Alright, Z8's client secret is in. Tweets, 3 more remaining. Tweets client ID. Not actually secret, but it's fine. Tweets client secret. That is a secret. And finally, my prod OpenAI API key for this trivia train project. All right, we should be good to go. So these ones, again, we cannot see. Even if I edit, it won't actually show them. Like, you can't see what they are. You can only paste a new one. If it's a variable, you can see what it is, which can be handy. But here's the app again. Good. And the thing we've realized is that secrets cannot start with GitHub because we have to plan GitHub and they reserve their own name, I guess. So let's keep this everywhere. Not everywhere, I suppose. These four, just put them in like this. And I need to use them like this. But the app knows them as GitHub client ID and secret. Alright, and if I reload this window, it should recheck GitHub and confirm that I have them. Great. I guess I don't actually need to pass them in, right? If I just do this, it should just work because this gets interpolated at the action level. So yeah, just pasting them in once, not that bad. And here, if I try to use GitHub or anything else, it knows that I don't have it available. So T8 is the correct one. So that's handy. Is this correct? Let's see. Hello, Captain Darkstar. Thanks for popping by for a hello. I appreciate this. At work. It's dedication to both work and to the live stream. Thank you. I'm not sure, but are you doing like React? So de-stressing from work React with some SvelteKit on the side. That'd be super fun. Ah, so here's some hallucination. GitHub Action does not have vars context. That's that's not correct. GitHub Actions does have a vars context and does have for a while. Usually when GitHub Copilot is wrong, it's because it's something from like, 3 years ago. The cutoff point for a lot of the models is like 2 years in the past. And most of the data they have is for 20 years. So they will tell you things that aren't true. Like I saw something recommending Supper, which never really made it to production. If you don't know, Supper evolved into SvelteKit, let's say. Anyway, that's not what I asked. The ask is, do I need to use it in env? So they're passing it here. So if you make it available here, then you can use it like this, because it's in the environment, which is what I tried to do before. But this is claiming that, this was claiming before that I can just interpolate it like this immediately. So we should be good to go. And in the environment, I just put this in. All right, so this may be correct. Oh, you've updated Darkstar. Captain Darkstar has updated their web app to show enhanced content according to whether a user is admin or not, which is awesome. Do you have a special column indicator for the user's role, like role admin or is admin true or something like that? Or are you using something else to determine this? That's always interesting to me. Let me teach this LLM something. You're using Firebase. I remember that you weren't using Drizzle, something like that. I think Firebase, like Supabase afterwards, they have a way to set like service roles, something like that, to users. So I'm wondering if you're using like a built-in role and say that this user is this, or did you create like metadata for that user, custom metadata? It's doubling down. It's saying GitHub Actions does not have a built-in vars context. This is funny because GitHub Copilot is made by GitHub, so they should know GitHub stuff. Still new to this and worried about security, Captain Darkstar. Those are the breaks. So can do admin users, are they able to do everything an admin can, like you? Which is a bit scary, to be honest. It's scarier than giving them like an advanced privileges role or something like that. All right. So regardless of whether vars is correct or not, so my UI can even see what this var is. So clearly it is supported by Github Actions. What remains to be seen is if this action will run as expected. Let's see. All right, so let's sync these changes and see first, does this action run correctly? Ideally, we'd want this action to have an output with the preview URL. The app that we're building today is called Trivia Train. It's not running. We'll see it running soon enough. You can click on it now. It's based on the app I did before my vacation in South Korea the past couple of weeks, and the idea is that we'll have a Who Wants to Be a Millionaire style app, quiz game show app, but with the Wordle angle where maybe you get a new quiz every day, everyone in the world gets the same quiz, so you can compare results, high scores, stats. And the other difference from Who Wants to Be a Millionaire or that sort of game show is that you will not be selecting from like 4 options. You will be able to freestyle input your answer, and then we'll be calling chat-gpt to validate whether this is the correct answer. Because the question could be like name team that Rivaldo, the football player, played for, and the available answers would be like Olympiacos, Barcelona, like a few others that the Vercel played in. But it'd be hard to account for all the permutations. Olympiacos, like in English, it's spelled with a C officially, but lots of people spell it with a K. Like if you do that sort of misspelling, should it count it? Anyway, to account for how people use languages, that's why we'll be using chat-gpt there. We won't just be saying, all right, only if you type correctly that the answer should be this is the only one answer that is effective. We will be attempting to deem an answer valid based using chat-gpt. I think that's a great use case for LLMs, actually. We'll see if that works. But today the episode has been dedicated to deploying to Fly. Usually we deploy to Vercel with the easy link GitHub repo button. Now we've been doing more stuff with deployments to Fly, which should be running a machine for us, which will be live all the time and can be beneficial if you have an app like the Cara app that has been in the news the past couple of weeks because they've amassed a huge Vercel build. We've talked in the beginning about Does that mean that Vercel is expensive? Does that mean that you're using Vercel wrong? Or does that mean that you should be paying like DevOps teams a lot of money to have more efficient AWS builds? We've discussed this in the beginning. Fly, I would say, is a bit more complicated to set up. We'll need to do another live stream where we try to go through all of these things again, now that we've learned quite a few things. But we're at the stage of where we should be able to automatically deploy to Fly. But something went wrong. Let's see what. So it couldn't find this, which is unfortunate. The command should have added this thing. And nice of the GitHub logs to obfuscate this, thankfully. Did we forget something? Oh, and we need to specify here the secrets. Oh no. Oh no. So we haven't added this statement in the Docker file. This is the problem. But we will. Yeah, we've kind of talked about this command, but I don't particularly like it. Yes, and this one we have manually deployed to Fly. So from the CLI, we have managed to deploy to Fly, and now we're trying to make the GitHub action deploy to Fly for us. And I'm forever debating, should I be using this extra machine that they specify? Because the answer is maybe yes. But we need to update this builder. I think that should be fine. Where is it reading these deploy secrets? I think it's deploying from the Fly secrets you've set with fly control set. Is this maybe what we want? Maybe. I do like the Vercel UI for setting the environment variables and the secrets. So I think this command would read all the secrets that we've added with secret sent, and that's why it's using the list, which would be fine, I guess. But I guess then we can go to the flag UI and specify the secrets there, which could be fine, I suppose. But if we still want to use GitHub, I guess we need to add this. How do I do more than one? It says you can mount multiple secrets. Thank you. How exactly? Anyway, let's go to the Docker file. We definitely need them for the build snap. So we need them here. This is where we need it. So we need to specify them whenever we need them. So I guess here in the build command, will it just be in the environment variable? In the environment, maybe? Who knows? Ah, I can COPA separate them, I guess. Can it just do multiple mounts? Who knows? Let's see if Copilot knows. The export. All right. The same instruction. Okay, so maybe Copilot has been helpful. This could be a case where the LLM is helpful, because I would hate writing all of this by hand. Just remains to see. Works. And Captain Darkstar, thanks for dropping by. Hope you find this interesting if you return later. And thanks for saying that it's a cool idea. All right, force push time. Commit amend, no edit, and push again. Let's see if this worked. Now I have a friend that keeps blending things here. This is nice. Nice thing to do while we wait. Beetroot, they say. Oh, automatically deployed to fly. Supposedly worked. Why is it called test? So this should be called the commit is called automatically deployed to fly. This didn't work. All right, we forgot one. established enabled, we always want it to not be enabled. So that should be fine. So let's try again. Looks like this will work. I want more cows in my farm. First world problems. All right, so if this works, this isn't too bad. Specify the secrets like this in the action. You need to remember every time you add a secret, you not only need to add it to like your corresponding to 10 when you're working locally, but you also need to go to GitHub in the settings and add it as a secret there. And you also need to go here to the job, to the deployment job, to actually add it here as a build secret. And also you need to go to the Docker file to specify it here. So every time you need to add a secret, it's like 3 steps. You also need to create the secret, I guess, and get it from somewhere. But you only need to provide the actual value in the GitHub UI. So add it once in the right place and then reference the new one in like 3 more places, which isn't ideal. But hey, if it works, it works. And it looks like it did. Sweet. So there must be an event here where we can output the URL and specify that we've actually deployed. Let's prove that we've deployed something by changing the login page. So here, what's a funny thing to say? What's a funny placeholder? What a famous trivia expert. Yeah, great detective. Besides Sherlock. Great doctor. Who would be great at trivia? Famous person, great at trivia chat. Maybe you can help. Who is great at trivia? Surely I know this. Anyway, the 3 nephews from Scrooge McDuck and Donald stories. Right, so in 2 minutes, we should have the deployment actually running, finally. So we've specified this new deploy workflow. We've specified various secrets in the GitHub repo. Some actually secret, some can be visible. And this should successfully deploy. And once it does, we should see the email address for logging in change. Let's see if that's the case. There it is, Phoenix Wright. Changed, it auto-deployed. Success. Grand success. This was something different. Yeah, so I guess this runs for a bit longer. It does have some extra actions. So nice to have here would be having a nice commit, having something else, having something somewhere. I specify this. Why did this fail? Regression tests. Never hydrates. We have the web client connection, but now for local hosts, we're connected to something else. That's a different problem. Deployment did work. All good. And I guess for now, we can specify that we don't want to see releases. We would want to see deployments, but we're not publishing anything with our deploy action, which should. We do know that the app is this, though, so we can at least manually add it here. Wait for the trailing slash. Right. So lots of automation going on. The migrations, database migrations, the integration tests will run. We're not submitting an event when deploying, so the playwright, the end-to-end tests are not running. And like the section about the deployments will never be populated with when the last deployment was. There must be a way to do this, but we may leave it for like a bonus episode. Cool. We've only got, not only, we have the deploy previews to go next. So, bulky part coming up though. So, to implement this app, we're using an SQLite database in the cloud called Turso. I've been enjoying it quite a lot. Usually, I either go for Superbase or Turso, depending on if I want real time, or really depending if I'm paying for it, if a client is paying for it. Much like Vercel versus Fly, Superbase does give you quite a lot of extra. So if a client is paying for it, if they're a company that is looking to not burn, but make use of some seed funding or a funding round, they have the money, then it may make sense to go with Superbase, which gives you lots of things out of the box at a cost. You're paying to save on developers, to save on time, to go faster. But if you don't want that, and maybe if you want to get better performance easier and more environments and that sort of thing, Turso is the way to go. Turso has been great, and I should have a few links here regarding that. Now that we are deploying to Fly, are we deploying to the edge? What are we doing? The thing is that Fly and Turso deploy to the same network, essentially they can pick up where the user is trying to connect from and figure out which database instance and Fly instance, machine instance is closest to you. In the example that they have here, the edge kind of popularized by Vercel is essentially the same thing. A user is somewhere, the edge network figures out which is the closest serverless server that can fulfill this request, and then fulfills that request for that user. So if that user is in South Africa, something around there will be spinning up to serve the request, and it will be super fast. But lots of people have noticed that, wait a minute, if the user is in South Africa, but the app also talks to a Supabase database that I've deployed to like Spain or London or San Francisco or wherever your startup is based, or on wherever you are coding on and deploying from, then even though the user gets that initial request to the app fast, your backend needs to do a backend to backend call all the way around the world, which introduces some latency. Backend to backend calls are almost always faster than front-end to backend calls. So that's at least good. That's at least latency safe, but it's still a big trip, and the database calls are usually going to result to the most data that your app are going to have. You can get around this with nice skeleton UIs, like your app responds fast, you fill in some skeleton UIs, the user feels like, oh, the app is going, it's fetching data for me, they feel good. So it's workaroundable. But what if your database as well was in South Africa? What if you had multiple replica databases all around the world? And according to where your app is served from, then it connects to the closest database, which happens to be in the same region. Because Turso deploys to the same regions that Fly can deploy to, then that is available. According to the plan that you have, you may not have as many regions though for Turso as you have for Fly, or if you're looking to save money, maybe you only deploy to like 2 regions, whatever the free limits are. But just to show, for my Turso database, the production ones, have one in Madrid. This is where I am. I do the San Francisco one, Miami. I have one in India. I imagine that's it. The Bombay one. And I also have one in London as well. So this has dramatically improved the performance of various apps, including the JOHNNIFY Premium app as well. The moment I've spun this up, it dramatically increased the performance, because even though the rest of the app is deployed to Vercel, it needed the backend to backend connection to where my database was, and the Supabase was just in London or Madrid, wherever I set that one up, and it needed a big trip if someone was trying to connect from India. Switching to Turso and making some database available according to where most of my traffic is coming from has dramatically increased performance, and it would have been even faster. Maybe not even faster. Even faster would be the next step. The Vercel Edge network, you don't need to select where the serverless edge servers are gonna be responding from. It will automatically be anywhere in the world. While with Fly, you need to specify, I need to spin one up in Madrid, one in Bombay, one wherever you want. But I guess that also means that you're more conscious of the costs as well. There is one thing that you can do, which is embedded replicas, and where your Fly machine is serving from, you can create essentially a copy of the Turso SQLite database literally there. So it's just going to be a file, another file where your app is. So it's essentially zero latency. It's literally zero latency after the user hits your app, because then your app just reads from a file, like it reads the code that is going to execute. So your database is right there. It may cause like some things that you need to worry about, like how often does this local replica synchronize? But some of that is taken care for you thanks to the Turso drivers that exist. So if you write, for example, it will automatically update the replica in that region, but how does that propagate? That's up to you. You need to figure out the synchronization. And if you just make it synchronized every minute, you should be fine, but you will be paying a bit extra for the synchronization reads. So it's a matter of balancing performance and cost, but maybe you're more in control than just letting it happen by magic. So for example, I have my main projects in a default group, and I have the stream projects just deployed in Madrid. So if you're trying to connect to the Fly app, well, the Fly app is also deployed to Madrid, so it will have a quick backend-to-backend call to the database, but maybe the initial connection to the app itself would be kind of slow, and the skeleton UI wouldn't be helping, because that's the thing that takes the most time. But I guess if you have a lot of data coming in from the database, then again, you might consider using it. Anyway, that's a long way to say that one of the ways to work with Turso when deploying to Fly is to ensure that you have your databases, your Turso instances deployed. This is the main one, and then you have a few replicas, and Turso takes care to synchronize, propagate these for you. Make sure that these reflect where you're deploying your app. So currently we're just doing Madrid, but in this case we should be doing these regions as well. And you can always pay more to Fly and to Turso to enable more regions. I think I'm on my scaler plan, which gives me 6 locations to work with, which is pretty good. Like if you're using analytics and you can see where your users are coming from, then you can definitely hit enough areas to spread the latency, to keep the latency low, which can affect your core web vitals and the real user experience as well. So, I kind of talked about this. The way to get further and get zero latency is with embedded replicas, which we'll get through in a moment. Now I'm feeling confident. Let's see if we can get embedded replicas, if we can get deploy previews to work. A big thing with Vercel, which you get for free, at least with no extra work, is if you have a branch. So if you're working at a branch, if one team is working to like feature A next to a big feature and they push while the review is happening, preview deployment is gonna appear. Vercel has been doing amazing work in that regard. Preview deployments were needed a whole team to be backed. Like I was begging DevOps teams to have a preview deployment. I've gone into this before. I don't need to go into a long story again, but Vercel for years has been doing this for free, and they keep adding functionality to their preview deployments, like the comments that anyone can leave if they have the correct access to your workspace, your Vercel organization and workspace, which then can link into the PR and block the pull request if they're not resolved. They keep adding amazing features to those things. Sometimes they are like over-engineered and kind of annoying. Do I want my PR blocked because someone asked, can we make this text bigger? Because maybe the answer is going to be no. But that's by the by. They keep adding cool features to the deploy previews. We won't be adding all of those features, but maybe we could add a preview deployment for a specific branch. So let's see. Can use the same one. Right, new GitHub action. I think we may need to specify this. Oh, they have a specific action for this. Interesting. This scares me because how will it pass all the secrets that we have? because this will need secrets, and ideally we'd need different secrets. There you go, secrets. Did they manage to make these deployments easier? That's kind of silly. But is it runtime secrets? Interesting. So these are the runtime secrets is my question. How do they know how to build? This output in the URL, which is good. But yeah, I predict that this will not be able to build this, right? So let's scout a new branch first. And let's add a new YAML as they want. Like writing it YAML with the A. And then let's copy and review all of this. Let's play preview. And every open request, when it closes, what happens? Cement this. Did they? Do we need the deploy step before? I guess so. Ah, it's missing steps. Sure. So here they need steps. So let's copy actually this. This feels more up to date. I'm worried with this underline. And I'm worried because GitHub Copilot was wrong with what you can do with GitHub Actions before, so I'm not going to ask it. It just says it must be unique from the repository. Ah, but we need to add it here. I see. Good. Great. Amazing, actually. So back to GitHub. Settings, environments. Don't see environments. Because I'm not paying for GitHub. Am I paying for GitHub? Maybe I am. Ugh. Yeah, I'm not paying enough. So I cannot specify an environment, sadly. Which would be cool, because then I'd be able to add secret environment variables for the environment. Oh well. So unfortunately we cannot do this. Alright, so that must be ignored. Fair enough. And we're using this GitHub action. What else can we do? I can only imagine these are runtime secrets, unfortunately. Sure. Right, so I think that's fine, and it will just not work because it doesn't have the secrets that we want. I can only imagine. Should I already add them? Because it will surely fail. Let's see it fail like that. CI. All right, so let's publish this branch, which should do nothing. But the moment we open a pull request, it will try to do something. Let's open this. There were tweaks there. All right. So migrate production DB shouldn't run on pull request, I'd say. Don't do it. That's something to fix. It should migrate the states in DB, I guess. So we should create like a similar one for the staging database. But this one fails. Great. Not authorized to deploy this app. Sure. Sure. So our API key has like some credentials, I guess. The other API token is only for a specific app, but I guess this one needs a super API key for me. I guess. So yeah, this does create a deployment key, but I guess this one needs to be able to create new apps as well. The deployment apps, the preview apps. I suppose that's the case. But oh no, but we should call it something else. Let's call it this. Let's move the terminal somewhere else. Let's create a new token for me, and I need to go to GitHub once again. There. Here. The secrets. I want a new one. And I guess I named this. And I can move it along. So this has been added. Great, lovely. And now we can try again. Confirm that I spelled it correctly. I guess you would need an org task for this project, really, if you bother with deploy previews. That's been deploying to main trunk-based development, thanks to my friend Joao, a great colleague and friend. He convinced me that's the way to go, trunk-based development. But hey, deploy previews for bigger organizations are great. So yeah, let's try again. Need one attempt to migrate anything. So now I predict it's gonna fail because we have not enough secrets. And then we'll try to pass in the secrets the way they suggest, which I think is just not gonna work. We'll move on with our lives. Because besides the jet lag, I do need to also go to the dentist. All the great things are happening. So I can only imagine this will try to build the app, right? I'll remember to update this. All right. So yeah, all of these things didn't quite work. But he's trying to find these secrets, so maybe what they said will work. Yeah, maybe it will actually work. So, secret section, we need to pass them like this. but I would give them like different names, I guess. Like staging DB, or add staging to the end. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Do they really just need a space? I guess that's correct. Right, Copilot, do your thing. All right, will this work? Not a real thing, not a real thing. Still doesn't know that this is a var. All right, I think this will work. I hope this will work. It already failed. That was fast. So I guess the build step must have worked. Guess not. So yeah, we passed in the secrets, supposedly. Did we? Oh, didn't push. Come on. Come on, Johnny. Get it together. We may have still gotten it right. So it's this one. Red. Interesting. So it's claiming that the CLI was not found, but surely, like, this image will have it, right? I say surely, but who knows? Is this supposed to be my name? Suspicious 43 and 43. Oh, it's the same thing. The moment they try to do fly control, it says not found. So it feels like their image does not have access to fly control. It doesn't feel correct. This needs some debugging. Their problem is that mix is not available. Fly control is available. Searching specifically for this will find nothing. This makes sense. But yeah, I'd say kinda clearly. The moment they try to do fly, don't find it. If I try to do this, it says it a bit differently, I guess. This command not found. Doesn't say fly control not found. Is this because this didn't work in the original pull request? That could be it as well, because now it needs to synchronize. Could be, but yeah, it feels like one of those things. Again, that we'll need to figure out individually, offline. So, maybe one of the last things. I would be talking about embedded replicas, then about deploying to a custom domain. But that's going to be it, because I will need to go. So we've touched upon Turso embedded replicas a little while ago, talking about how Fly can work with Turso. They can work quite well because you can specify Fly to be deploying to these regions and having your Turso database also being deployed to those regions. You can have the same primary, well, you can have 6 regions that you deploy your Fly machine to all around the world, your Fly machines, closest to where you get the most traffic, and then you can have the one Turso main database, and multiple replicas, 5 more replicas around the world, wherever you deploy your Fly machines. Or, just to see the pins on the map as well. So you can have something like this, like Fly as well. You have it deployed to a few regions, and then you deploy to a few regions as well. But, for example, Turso, on the smaller tiers, I think they allow only one environment or maybe 3 replicas, just a few replicas. You can't do this. Maybe you're willing to pay for this for Fly to do it, but not willing to pay extra for Turso to do it. So or you don't want to have 2 places where you're trying to synchronize all of those things. So what you could do is set up your Fly machines to be running all around the world, all initially talking to a single Turso database and creating a local embedded replica right there in the machine. So 0 latency backend operation, you're just reading a file. This is what embedded replicas are all about, which we want to do today. Let me know if you want to see exactly how it works. It's a slightly different configuration with how you work the libSQL client. Instead of connecting to a web URL, you just connect to a local file. So you have 0 latency. But the concern is cost again, and how you're gonna be synchronized in the database. So every app on an interval of a minute or something, you can have it reread this file just to confirm, just to check, just to synchronize any changes that may have happened. But maybe you have a different sort of app where you know that all the writes are going to happen in one place. So when you're connecting to the admin app, for example, that one can be giving the signal for every other local embedded replica to update. And only then, like only when you add a new quiz in the instance of our app, only then do the sync. That'd be neat. That would save you some money, but it depends on your use case. So how often you run this? Who knows? The local machine will update the local file when a write happens. So at the very least, the user that's using the app, you'd assume that they will connect to the same machine later because they haven't flown all the way from South Korea back to Barcelona like myself. So they would see their updates immediately. But for other users to be able to see this, so if you have like a high scores type of operation, how would they know a new high score has been committed? You will need a periodic sync to happen. That's a problem that we may solve some other time. But the big thing that this solves is you're just paying Fly more to spin up machines all around the world. Could be cheaper as well, depending on how you've set things up. And then, according to how efficient your sync is, maybe Turso is relatively cheap as well. You only have the one Turso main database, and every one of these machines has a local replica. And the idea is the user connects to the Fly machine that's closest to them, so very low latency, as low as possible because it's a front-end and back-end operation, at least to somewhere close. And then it's 0 latency to read from your database because it's just a local file. It's just like local code. So that's the beauty, that's the intrigue of an embedded replica. So I'd be excited to go deeper into this in a following episode. I think it's a neat subject, but I love covering things that you think are interesting as well. So let me know, do you think it's interesting? And I will cover it. Finally, for now, we are deploying to a Fly URL, .fly.dev, which is kind of neat, like it has Fly in the name. What do you need to do if you want to deploy to your own domain? So if someone signs up for JOHNNIFY Premium, which also gets you all of the code we've done today already. You can download it and use as you please. The prices will go up end of the month. They will only go up because we've added like 1 million repos. Well, not to exaggerate, we've added like 12 repos since we've started this a few months ago. Anyway, long story short, what if someone does sign up, and again, I buy another domain like triviatrain.com, and I want to deploy to this with Vercel, which has its own domain registrar service in the product. That's another way they make money, even from small developers. They know that developers have an addiction to buying cheeky domains. I'm guilty of that, for sure. So in Vercel, it's pretty easy. You can buy through them and set things up quickly to deploy here. It is a few more steps to do this with Fly. On your registrar, you need to set up a CNAME record to wherever your Fly app is, which is, simple enough. But the next step would be to create the certificate, the secure HTTPS certificate for HTTPS, for HTTP2 and above to work. You need to manually do this. And I guess, like, for the deploy previews, you won't want to over-engineer this and create new ones every time. But I don't think you'd need to automate this. I think you just set up, buy the domain, set up the CNAME record to wherever your Fly app is, and then run this with the CLI tool once, and you're good to go forever. So not crazy, but still a slightly extra step. All right, so I was thinking the other thing that we want is for the deployment event that does work, the deployment action workflow, GitHub workflow or GitHub action that does work. I would want it to broadcast an event with a deployment URL. That'd be neat, because then my end-to-end tests will be able to run, and also I can have like a handy section here on the side as it happens with like here, have production and deployment previews. Did they work? Did they not work? This is something that with Vercel you get for free by eventually paying for it, I guess. But with no extra work, free when it comes to what work you need to do. It'd be neat to achieve with Fly as well. And for that, we'd need to broadcast a deployment event at the end of the deploy workflow. We'll see how we can do that as a next step. But I suspect what we will do next time, just to get a break from all the DevOps work, is to actually add functionality to this app. So more Turso and Drizzle stuff, create some new tables, see how the questions will appear, see how users will be able to answer the questions and get maybe help if they didn't get it correct. Maybe like they'll have a few lives each time. Maybe we'll have a high score. We have a few things that I've marked down as things that I want to do with this app. Let me know if you think they're interesting. If you think they're more interesting than doing more deployment stuff. If you want to see something else, let me know. Once again, I appreciate your time. Spending it with me is a pleasure because I enjoy coding along with other engineers. I enjoy helping out, makes the time pass faster, happier. But most of all, I want to show things that you think are interesting, you think you'll find useful. So let me know what you'd like to see. And if I think I can cover it well, I will. Sometimes, even if I don't think I can cover it well, I will do it as seen today. We didn't need to go through quite a few rabbit holes to get this deployment sorted. But with that, I think we'll sign off unless there are some last minute questions, and we'll renew our appointments for Tuesday. I will be flying over this weekend to a friend's wedding, but I'll be back. So no break from streams this time. We'll see each other again this coming Tuesday, quite soon. We'll probably be doing app functionality stuff, but again, let me know what you'd like to see. All right, I'll take that as a goodbye for now. Have a lovely evening, have an amazing weekend, and once again, thank you very much for joining. See ya.